And it's
Are you happy?
awesome.
I'm happy.
And
Let's
I'm just
make
going to introduce you, and we're going live right now.
Love it.
I'm going to do my little spiel real fast, Chris, and then I'm going to bring you in, okay?
That's the plan I am going with as well.
Okay, so we are live right now. Welcome, everybody, to Nez Nation Live. This is the live stream podcast. It is I, Professor Nez. I'm your personal branding coach, LinkedIn consultant, business owner, and actual business communications professor. I don't just call myself that for no reason. I've got an amazing, amazing guest for you today. I'm really excited to talk to him. We had a little bit of problem last time, the first go around, but he is here. He is alive. He's not buried in a tundra. Thank God. And I can't wait to talk to him about what's happening online, what's happening with the state of social media. We had a State of the Union address last night, and I can't think of a better guy to ask than my guest today, Mr. Chris Brogan. Hey, Chris, how are you, man? Welcome to Nez Nation Live.
Thank you. So glad to be here, Professor. It is, yeah, it was so unfortunate with the weather. I drive a really stupid car for where I live. I live in very northern Massachusetts, and in 2010, I bought myself a brand new Camaro, perfect midlife crisis mobile. And it's a great car. In this climate, though, it's a great car about 8 or so months, maybe 7 months. And then anytime there's even 1/8 of an inch of snow, basically it sure looks pretty.
Yeah,
but it goes nowhere.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, we're about the same age, Chris, and I totally relate to what you're talking about. I drive. To me, a car is just like an A to B thing. I'm not one of these guys who's like, you know, it's got to have a subwoofer and it's got to have all these things to it. As long as my kids are safe and as long as like I can get to where I'm going, it's just pretty much a piece of crap Chevy. It's not no offense, Chevy. Yeah. I love Chevy. But, you know, it does the job. So I totally get it. I was thinking, though, there was a couple of cars that I had my kind of eye on, but, you know, my wife kind of gave me that look. You know the look you get from your wife? It's like, what are you thinking? And so, yeah, we nixed that idea quickly. But then, of course, you know, every time she goes to the Louis Vuitton store, there doesn't seem to be any reservation, unfortunately. So, Chris, everybody knows who you are pretty much, but there may be a few people who live, you know, maybe on, you know, another planet who don't. Can you tell our Nez Nation audience just really quickly, just a little bit about who you are, what you do, and what you're all about?
You know, I would say like 5 years ago, I would totally agree that everyone probably should know who I am. But I'm in this fascinating role where I'm like, some people are like, oh, you're that like OG guy who used to be somebody. And I'm like, yeah, I remember that too. My world is, so I'm a business advisor and a consultant. I work with companies mostly on digital marketing. How do they use tech to drive a better human interaction? So I focus on customer acquisition, retention, sometimes onboarding. So if a company comes to me and says, hey, Chris, we really want to use some kind of fun digital tools to reach some people in some different way, that's me. I don't know anything about search engine optimization. I don't consider myself a social media anything. I don't use the term because if that's true, I would have been a fax marketer back in the day, or a postcard marketer. So what I do though is I'm always trying to seek a way that can I help a company. I think we as humans are sick of trying to fit in. And I think what we're looking for now is where do we belong? Right. And so I'm always on the lookout for, is there some way a company could signal to the people that they hope to serve, you know, we're like you and we should be friends. And so that's the kind of business I work on now. So I'm always out there kind of fishing around for a client that, you know, wants to do something a little different than what their agency is telling them to do. And that's my space.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. That's a great introduction. And guys, just really quickly, I just wanted to say hello to Neil is here. Midnight Madness is here. Hey, Beth, how are you? Good to see you. TubeBuddy. Hey, TubeBuddy, how are you? By the way, just really quickly, shameless plug. If you want to download the greatest YouTube tool or YouTube accessory to optimize your YouTube channel, go to tubebuddy.com/NezNation and you can get an amazing deal. TubeBuddy is awesome. And really quickly, Chris, this is, at least I was honest about it. It was a total shameless plug. But Chris,
I love it really. And I'm a TubeBuddy user. So I was like, good for you.
Yeah. Thank you. I've been noticing what you've been doing a lot of. I've been paying attention. I actually pay attention. And given that we're in this ADHD kind of, landscape right now, everybody's
right.
got
I mean, that's like a real compliment when you say that. I've been paying, you could stop. I've been paying attention.
That's right.
I'm like, okay,
That's right.
I'll sleep with you.
Yeah, you're
All
right.
right.
I mean, absolutely. I totally agree with that. I mean, I think that when somebody gives you their attention, that is a pretty unbelievable gift. I'll never forget what Steven Spielberg once said. He said the greatest gift you can give to a friend is your time. And I agree with that. I think it's still true. I've been noticing you've been pretty busy and pretty proficient on YouTube as of late. And I don't know if it's as of late, maybe in quotes, but, I've been noticing this interesting trend. We've seen a lot with, what we do on our show is we try to help people build their reputation online. To me,
Sure.
Personal branding is just a fancy phrase. It's really just about modern communications. If you understand where people are connecting, where they're interacting, where they're conducting business. I mean, there's a reason why Amazon owns the world, right? There's a reason why Netflix is, making Hollywood scared and making Hollywood run scared. And I don't think it's going to go backwards. Usually technology goes forward, unless we're obviously going to experience an apocalypse, God forbid. But I've been noticing you have been doing a lot more in the space of video and video storytelling. And your article on the sort of marketing is about telling the customer story or appealing to that emotional side really resonated with me. I talk about this with my students all the time, that you've got to bring that human element. Don't be a robot. Don't be on this automaton kind of cycle. Can you kind of get a little bit into that and talk a little bit about your process and what you're doing? Because I think it's really interesting and it's so relevant.
So yes, thank you. And yes, too, I have been using YouTube a little bit more than I had been. I've had a YouTube account since 2006, but I abandoned it for large swaths of time. And I just changed what I'm planning to use it for I'm the opposite of the, best guy to get advice for YouTube on. I would love to have kind of found a lane and stuck in it, like somebody like Good Mythical Morning or anybody, and really stuck to a show format. But I'm just a little too flighty for that.
Right.
When it comes to things like, for lack of better terms, branding and personal branding and communications in this new space and all that, there are two sort of, if you look at them a little too literally, they're a little bit conflicting, the messages that I give. If you allow yourself to kind of extrapolate and think a little bit further than the verbiage, then it all lines up nicely. So what I say is I try really hard to teach people that they need to get into video. They need to create content in ways that people are intending to consume it these days, period. And that one part of that is so important that most people accidentally don't do a lot with is that a lot of people need to make content that is specific to the people that they're trying to serve. So a lot of times when we say yes or no to making video, and when we start deciding what we're going to put out there for video, it is a lot based on I want, I'm afraid of, I don't want to, I look ugly, I look old, I'm fat, I'm skinny, I'm something bad for somebody else. That's all I know, is that half the reason nobody does anything is that they're bad. And that's probably true. You're probably bad. You're probably ugly. You could be fat. You might be skinny. Probably true. However, no one really cares. And if you own it, no one cares. Jack Black has a few million YouTube subscribers, and he's a furry, fat, ugly dude. He gets by on charisma. So if he could do it, you could do it.
Right.
But then what I say is, so then once you hit record and once you start turning that light on a little more often and doing something with it, the real goal is, how do you connect with and serve your intended buyer's story? How do you fit into what they're looking to do? So if I were selling how to build online digital presence, then you would kind of hope that my content was a lot more on how to build online digital presence. And that's so weird, because that's what my content's about. And what I try to do is make
what a strange coincidence.
Yeah.
How did that happen?
I talk about biscuits,
yeah.
But I couldn't get much more than I like biscuits. How about you? So I think that where this all goes is we stick around places where we feel like we belong. We stick around if we kind of know the inside jokes of a place or the lore. And we stick around if we feel like something's benefiting us. No one ever, if I ask people who watch YouTube, I'm like, what do you watch? They can answer that right away.
Right.
If I ask people who know that they should be watching YouTube, I get about 40 seconds of before they name some channel that they probably haven't watched in a long time, because it doesn't really benefit them.
Right.
So I don't know. That's my take on that, and that's why I like doing video. I also like video, and you know this as a professional communicator. There's such a vast distance between how one expresses themselves in text and what one can do with visuals. And yes, picture's worth 1,000 words, but you can tell a little bit faster. This person I would love to have a beverage with. This person I would not. And no matter what we say, and no matter how we rationalize or justify, we buy from people we like.
Right. That's exactly right. I want to just say really quickly, we're getting some comments in the chat that the video is buffering, and I really just want to say I apologize. I tested this thing out. I always try to test this stream beforehand. It is what it is, guys. I'm really, really sorry, but Chris is still here, and Chris is still going to give us and is giving us really, really awesome value here about what's going on with how you can communicate yourself and get your message across. Chris, we're just going to keep plugging through. Hey, Chris, okay. And thank you for being such a good sport. Chris, okay, thank you so much, Flash. I appreciate that. It looks like Flash is saying he had some problems on his stream last night. Yeah, I think, it's interesting. Neil, you say that. It's interesting because some streams are absolutely perfect and some streams aren't. This is just kind of the vicissitudes of live streaming. It's going to happen. I do apologize. I'm doing the best I can, and we're just going to keep plugging through. Thank you, guys. And by the way, if you have any questions for our awesome guest, he can't be here that long, so I really want to take advantage. I don't want to waste any more time on the quality of the video. I'm really, really sorry. I appreciate it, but we're going to keep plugging through. So, Chris, let me ask you this. Great stuff, by the way, and I couldn't agree more. To me, I think video is just... And I've experienced this with my business, too. I'm a coach and consultant as well. I think everybody on the planet is now. The gig economy truly is taking over, which I think is actually awesome. I think that's a great I think it's a great compliment to this technology that people can actually create more flexibility, some more coin. There's nothing wrong with making money, folks. And I think it's really, really cool. I think this technology has lent itself to that, and it's really done a great job of creating this landscape and this marketplace for people to actually monetize their brain and their expertise and their skill sets. When it comes to people like, I mean, like you and like Joel and, people like Jay Bear and people, who've been around for a really long time, you've got a pretty good footing in this. What would you say, Chris, to people who are like starting out? How can people, like my Nez Nation audience, a lot of people are thinking about doing this, and like you said, they're stifled sort of by mental blocks. Am I going to come across good? That maybe perfectionist syndrome. What would you say to people who are kind of just starting off in this arena, and how could they kind of maybe circumvent some of those challenges?
If let's pretend I'm someone who has had a regular corporate life or something for some duration of time. I come from that world too. I mean, I was in telecom and then wireless telecom for a while. So, I sat at a cubicle just like anybody else. If I were that human and saying, okay, I've been listening to all these people and they tell me to get all digital, fine, I'll do it. All right, fine. I'd set up a website. And I would set up a website probably with a blog just because that gives you the most technology options. And so I would either use something like maybe Squarespace, or I would use WordPress. 31% of American websites are built on WordPress, even if they don't look like a blog. I would keep an email newsletter list, because the one thing that usually doesn't work super well with video is engagement that you can sort of tap two ways. The video is for when someone feels like checking in with you. Email is when you really have something you want to share with them on your timetable. Right. So I'd have an email list. And I would do video if you're ready. And when I say if you're ready, I don't mean if you're a perfectionist or not, but if you're ready to kind of keep the practice going for just a little while. Right. The best way to get better at anything is to practice it. I'm forever stunned that people say, oh man, I've never done video. I'm so bad at it. It's so weird. I have also never piloted a commercial plane. And I'm really bad at that. Yeah. I've seen a lot of movies. I think you have to pull up on something. That's all I know. Right. And I can tell you that my biggest advice is press record. Practice, practice, practice. Make a lot of stuff that's never going to see the human light of day, because then what comes from that, the best thing that comes is you learn how not to say a lot. You learn how to make eye contact a lot. Right. You learn how to emote a little bit more. That's the one weirdest thing about video that you have to explain to people, and you feel dumb explaining it to them, It's you're like, you have to emote a little more. And
yeah.
people are like, I am such an introvert.
Yes.
I am such an introvert, and I don't emote like this if we're in person to this level, because that's how video works. And believe me, there's countless videos on YouTube about people having to talk about the fact that they deal with depression or something, and it is endless that their experience is having to say to people, look, it's this way because we have to do it this way, because no one wants to watch a YouTube video by the person talking the way they probably would.
Yeah. Right. I know. I tell my clients all the time, I go, why are you sounding like an infomercial? You don't have to do that. Like, some people think they have to do this whole like, hi, I'm Chris Brogan. It's so great to see. It's like, wait a minute. What you wouldn't talk like that to like somebody you're having coffee with or somebody you're just hanging out with. And actually, I think there's even, not to quantify it, but I think there's even analytics and data that prove that doesn't really up engagement or have anything to do with engagement. Actually, it's quite the opposite. It's being just your natural self, fumbling, mumbling, making mistakes. This live stream, obviously we're having some streaming kind of problems, but we're plugging through. I'm owning up to it. I'm apologizing to my audience. How's it coming through now, Midnight Madness? Let me know, Neil. Thank you, guys. And make sure you do smash the smash button, because that really helps us out here. We appreciate it. So, yeah, it's interesting to me when people – we've got this unbelievable device in our pockets now where you don't need fancy lighting. You don't necessarily need a Canon 50D or whatever.
Right.
All you really need is what's in your pocket, and you can communicate with the world. I'm a communications dude. My gig is language, Chris. And I think that the most powerful disease that mankind's ever faced is misunderstanding. I think if you can be understood, I try to tell my writing students this, Chris, and I'd love your thoughts on this. It's not about converting. It's not about persuading all the time. It's not about selling all the time. Just be understood. If you can be understood, that's a starting point for a conversation. And I love, I remember watching your video on emoting, and I remember reading your article on the customer story and storytelling in general. Is there anything you can kind of add to that for our Nez Nation audience, Chris, about storytelling, and why is that something that we should be thinking about in our content?
The one recurring flaw in most people's video, especially early on, in my not at all humble opinion, is that we tell me stories, I stories. We talk about our product, our thing, what we've been doing. And that's okay. I mean, when you get started, we all look at our belly button a lot. That's how we kind of do this. Oh, I don't know. I kind of feel depressed today. Yeah. And then one day we go, that's so weird. No one cares about that. And then you make some sort of video like, how to set up a new webcam. Look, here's a webcam. Right. How to set up a new webcam, right? So we do something like that, and we walk through it, and we say, and this is what you do. And I noticed that when I took it out of the box, this didn't work the way I thought it was going to work. So I had to go find this little piece of software that no one's going to tell you about. That is the most beloved thing in the world. When we get some little piece of help from someone else, everything else doesn't matter. Your skin tone, your whatever. You got zits today, doesn't matter. It's all good. Unless it's super distracting. What we do when we are self-conscious is we draw attention to the thing that we're worried about, Right. I've got a black head, and we start touching it. Yeah. I have this thing. This is a weird inside story. So I've been on video.
That's perfect for our audience.
You're going to love it. I've been on video since I don't remember now. So let's say early 2000s. I started blogging in 98. So in early 2000s, I started making videos and getting them online and all that. And when I shoot a video longer than like a minute, I invariably touch my nostrils to make sure magically no booger has come down.
Wow, that is cool.
So you will see, I don't know how many videos. Hey, Chris Brogan, just checking in. I look like a coke addict. Yeah. But it is essentially the is my fly down of the video space. Right. Because right now it doesn't matter if it's down. I haven't stood up yet. You're all good. Yeah. But are there boogers hanging out my nose?
Checking it out, so,
like in my head, Nez, by the way, French for nose, in my head, half the time I'm like, don't touch your nose, don't touch your nose, don't touch your nose. You're asking me questions. I'm like, focus on the question. Don't touch your nose, right? So there you go. That's an inside one. So I say this to say, Professor,
yes,
that people bring their insecurities brighter and more in high def to video until they've practiced a bit.
Right.
And the only cure besides practice is the number one cure. The number two cure, the sort of the hamburger helper, let's say, is help other damn people. You know, if you help other people, if you're making video where you're emoting towards giving someone something they could use. I tried this CBD cream and it's taken care of my red parts of my face. That video is going to help some person somewhere who has red parts of their face. I had a stupid technology problem. And this guy, I sifted through, I don't know how many videos that were 10 plus minutes long. And this one guy had an absolutely no frills, less than 2 minutes video where he's like, you got to go here, got to go here, got to click this thing, make sure this is clicked off. I was like, that's what I did wrong. I sent that guy a message. I said, I know this video is 8 years old. That's what I needed. And
you
it was
helped me.
And concise and perfect.
Yes.
And that's, you know, you could be that person in this example if you just stop looking at your nose.
Yeah. And also, it's so funny that you say that, Chris, because I always feel like I have eyeball boogers. Because I get, you know, when you're a father and you're a father as well, you're sort of like sleep patterns. I'm going to put this mildly, but they sort of alter. Let's just say. So you don't really, you know, hey guys, the reason Nez looks like this, I'm a dad. Most dads can relate. I used to actually be good looking. Okay. But Neil says Nez is nose in French. So now it's Nose Nation. Doesn't quite have the same ring to it, but you know what? Hey, Neil, I love it. I love your paying attention and you're coming up with creative stuff. That's great. Nose Nation. Yes. Hashtag Nose Nation. Fantastic.
I feel like I've done a terrible thing here, Professor.
No, you have not done a terrible thing. You're doing fantastic. And so it's funny, when I give a speaking presentation or when I'm in my class, I'll do that thing that you do with your nose. I'll kind of do the like, okay, I have that consciousnness in my head. Do I have eye burgers? And then I look like some kind of like dread, you know, or some kind of ghoul. Like, what are you doing? Why is he clawing his face?
We just all look like addicts. That's all I have to tell everyone is that until someone slaps your hands enough times, you're going to look like an addict.
That's right. Exactly. Chris, thank you so much. That's awesome. Let me ask you this, if I may.
Sure.
Because because you're just, it's so awesome having you. We've got this wealth of knowledge here. And I mean that sincerely. Like I really have been a fan for a long time, and I appreciate you giving us your time. I know you've been talking a lot about voice, and we've been talking a lot about video. I just want to pick your brain for a second, if I can. What do you think about like the state of sort of the internet? I mean, I can't think of a better guy to ask than you. And we talk a lot about video. Live streaming is obviously becoming more and more popular. YouTube, it seems to me, more people, you know, are all of a sudden starting to pay attention to this video platform, YouTube, and I see it, at least I'm paying attention to it. Instagram seems very popular with younger people, although everybody's on Instagram. Facebook, and you know, I know your good buddy Mike Stelzner had a big announcement leaving Facebook for long form video, which I love his show, The Journey. What should we be doing, Chris? What's happening? Where are we going? What are your thoughts?
So the title of my forthcoming business book is Be Where They Are, Go Where They're Going.
There we go.
Be where they are is the best advice I can give you about any digital platform, bar none. It doesn't matter which platform. I'm very anti-Facebook right now because of, it's not like I didn't know they were taking all my data. Yeah. I'm just sort of feeling a little grumpy about how they're using it. I use Instagram is the only Facebook product on my phone anymore. I took off Messenger. I took off Facebook. I took off WhatsApp. I switched to another platform called Signal. I have a few things to say about that. And I also do want to go back to voice. So if I forget, remind me. But
okay.
I am just now trying, and I can't vouch for this platform. I can't say it's good or bad or anything, but I'm trying that platform Viber, V-I-B-E-R, which is a mobile-first kind of group chat mostly kind of platform. And it's almost, Viber really is like if Yahoo made Slack. That's the easiest way for me to say it, because Slack is crisp and clean and perfect.
Yeah.
And Yahoo is purple and weird and not exactly well styled.
Yeah.
That's what Viber looks like. Right. But there's a little magic in that old silk hat, because what we're seeming to want, including younger and older people, is we're wanting to kind of really kind of tribalize a bit more. We want to get to the places where we want to talk about the thing we want to talk about. And I've said this for I don't know how many years, and Slack is the first example of this for real. But I think we should be organizing around conversation choices, not around people. I don't follow a lot of people on many social platforms because I don't care about 89% of what you are talking about, but I do care about the conversations that are of mutual interest, right? I am friends as a dad. I am friends with lots of other parents. I don't care about your kid. Like I'm sure they're lovely until they do something neato. Like I don't care. Like, oh, look at their shoes. Yeah, they're kid shoes. That just changed my life, right? But you know, if your kid is an artist like mine or a musician like mine, then I definitely want to know because I'm like, oh, my kid does something like that. So that's where I am with that. I think we're going to go to smaller things. And Path was an example of a platform like that. It came and went. Viber probably isn't the one, but Viber might be the MySpace to the Facebook. You know, everyone got on MySpace. Everyone said, whoa. And then Facebook came out and we're like, oh, much, much better. Okay. And back then it was crisp, clean, and blue and simple. It's still blue.
It's still blue.
When it comes to things like voice activated devices, voice connectivity, YouTube, computing without computer. The word computing is still wrong. It's just we're just not going to come up with another word. Like it's so ingrained over the last many decades that it's only going to come. Gen Z's grandkids will call it something utterly different. We'll finally be done with that. The phone icon will vanish off of devices, etc. But not yet. Computing without voice, computing without keyboards, computing without a rectangle. Look at tablet sales. Tablet sales went up super fast when they started, went super down when everyone bought one and realized we don't know what we're supposed to do with them. And they're starting to come around again. Multi-billion dollars invested in VR, which I'm so not interested in, virtual reality. But AR, its little twin, which is the real world with stuff overlaid, I love that.
Yeah.
Voice, I was just saying to someone earlier today, I was out of the house. I sent a message to somebody saying, I feel naked without Alexa, she who shall not be named, Voldemort. Yes. I feel so naked when I cannot say to the air. You know, I say to the open air, blah, blah, how many rings does Tom Brady have now? And they say back 6.
Too many. Right? He's got a lot.
6. Yeah. So, you know, and I know what coast you're on, so I know that's a sore subject still, but
you know, it was a really interesting game. I mean, I tweeted out, you know, Pat Riley once said defense wins championships. I was kind of like, whoa, like the beginning of that game, and I don't mean to really flip the conversation, but as conversations go, when they're real, they go in myriad directions, right?
Right.
So like I was really, and I saw a little bit, I'll be honest, I didn't watch all of it, but I saw your response to the, quite frankly, it was really boring. No, I'm kidding. That's a joke.
Kind of was, though. It was me talking about what ads I like.
No, actually, it wasn't boring at all. But I just, you know, being a father and a business owner, you get it. I only have time for so much. But, like, it was interesting that, like, I was like, wow, Brady seemed really, I don't want to say nervous. Maybe that's not the right word. Or maybe it is. I don't know. But it was like, but then you got Goff on the other end. It was like the Rams, it's just the defense was just unstoppable. And then that final drive just really brought it all home. I think they deserved it. They're an amazing organization. I actually like Brady. I don't really have coastal tribalism at all, or anything like that. It was a great game towards the end, and it was an interesting finish. And I like seeing successful people continue to be successful if they're doing it the right way. And what I mean by right way is just like what you were talking about earlier. They don't ever give up on the fact that they have to remain humble. They have to keep working hard. It's not just going to get handed to them. And I feel like Brady had to adjust a lot. Am I wrong? I mean, you know more about this than I do, Chris.
So I'll give you a few things on this. So
please.
Football analysis, but I love it.
I told you guys, are you ready for some football? We're going to talk football.
Who knew?
Screw the internet. No, I'm kidding.
So there's a few things. So, you know, it's easy to hate the team that's winning a lot lately, number one. Number two, no matter what anybody says, he totally cheated. But he cheated in that way that he was like, this is a loophole. I'm going to use this loophole.
Right.
And then everyone else goes, oh, my gosh, that was a huge loophole. Let's not do that again. He totally cheated. So the only people who will say he wouldn't are the people in my neck of the woods. So we'll just take that off the table.
Thank you for fessing up on that.
There you go.
Yeah.
In fact, some kid just did a Kansas State science fair totally proving it 100% that he was a cheater.
Oh, really?
So,
interesting.
Yeah, it was really great. Fourth grade. So, but the way, and I can tie this back to what we're talking about. The way Brady and Belichick and the rest of the Patriots approach everything they do is just work. The least interesting press conference ever is Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick's press conference is always the same. We worked really hard. We went out there. We played. Now we're going to study what we did wrong. 100% of the time. When he's winning a Super Bowl, he smiles about 21 seconds, and then he's back to making that face.
Oh, my God. His facial expressions kill me.
Yes. So I tweeted, by the way, it's really funny about you're saying it's exciting. My coworker, Rob, also thought it was very exciting. And I said, I thought it was boring as hell. I thought it was the most boring game ever. And my ex-wife and I were having a conversation about this, and she said, that's because you like it to be entertaining, not about the sport. And I said, 100%. I'm American.
Yeah.
That's why no one really likes soccer here. That's why no one likes hockey, because games can end 1-1. That's stupid.
Right.
And I said, I'm totally fessing up. It was the least entertaining game ever in the history of sports. However, it was because it was a game of generals and it was a game of that. And I think that as that ties to people, and this is so important, you can do your job well and attract zero attention, zero message, zero merit, zero anything, no accolades, no, hey, this is someone we should know more about. And you could do your job mediocre and average. That was me. I'm pointing at myself. You could do your job totally average, but have a presence and be entertaining enough and informative enough that people still try to talk about you like you're legendary. I have done nearly nothing to deserve all of the attention I've garnered over the years, except be likable, be understandable, and say things in a way that's different than other people, enough so that people go, huh, and then keep paying attention. That's the drug. That's all I got.
Right. And I can tie this in, too. I love the way you said that, Chris, because there was a really big internet mogul guy, I'm not going to mention his name, who said, and I'd love your thoughts on this, he said, people don't come to the internet to learn something. They come to be entertained. So don't sell them. Don't try to teach them anything. Entertain them first, and you will eventually sell them. What are your thoughts on that?
So I started selling online courses in 2012. It was a random thing. Someone said to me, hey, you wrote about this a lot. If you just tweaked it a little bit, it would be an online course. And I was like, oh. And so I said, well, I'll try. I'll put it on an online course. And I made like $40,000 with like 3 emails. And I was like, oh my gosh, why hadn't I been doing this? This is stupid. This is great. By the way, the golden days are done. Now I'm like, oh, $2,000, $3,000, $3,000, right? So it's a little different.
Yeah.
But I could tell you that somewhere in the middle of that, I asked a friend, Joe, and I said, Joe, I'm not asking this like I want your money, but I'm asking this like you are my ideal customer for this thing I'm trying to sell. Why aren't you buying? And he said, well, because it looks like it's too long. It will take too long. It looks like it's a lot of dense material, and I don't have time for it. I said, let me just read that back to you with my words a little differently. I said, communicating. I said, so you want it shorter, more entertaining, and a little easier for you to consume and run away when you're done. And he said, yeah. I said, what if I said that you would lose at least 40% of the payload of the education that I intend if I do it that way? He goes, drop 60%. I don't care.
No big deal, right?
I got to consume it on the fly. If you make me an amazing sit-down meal and I've got 20 minutes to catch my plane, I'm not going to eat it. Yeah. And I said, you are so right. So for years since, I have to make my courses that I sell a lot more consumable, a lot more entertaining, and brevity. I used to think an hour-long video was why someone would pay me $1,000. And no, it's if I can make a really good 12-minute video 5 times, then they'll pay me the $1,000. So it's a very interesting world. And it's not even just attention span. It's not busy. Like you called me busy earlier. I'm never busy. I am blessed. There are full days that if I want, I could probably play Xbox all day. And I have. But I can also say that we expend our time and our money and our effort and our intentions much more willfully than we ever could before, and because we can drive it exactly where we want to go. One last Super Bowl thing.
Yes.
I don't know Tony Romo very well. I know he also plays the sports ball. But because of how prophetic he seemed at the AFC East game, where he kept calling plays before they happened.
I mean, genius.
He was exciting back and forth to the Super Bowl at a time where I've been trying to say, I don't think we need the sportscasters anymore. I would sooner hear my friends talk about the game over the game than some man, well, Brady's at the 12 and he's really looking around. I'd rather that. You asked one question I didn't answer, which is why did Brady look so troubled and all that? The answer was Brady's an insanely great player, but he can't be all the players. And so when he's making a face, it's usually, why do I only have Edelman to throw to right now?
Right. God, Edelman, my God, we didn't even talk about Edelman. That guy's a hero.
And he is, because Edelman has always been this like level set guy.
Oh,
and
he's great.
Brady will try hard to throw to Gronk, but then too many people will cover him. Brady will throw to whatever number 15's name is. I don't remember, Hogan. But whoever, like when all those people are failing, Brady kind of only has Edelman sometimes, and that's tricky. And Goff had that as well, because Goff is young enough not to see his possibilities as well as he could. So he really kind of only felt like he had a few go-tos. So whoever your receiver is, who everyone loves so much, who got like no catches, it was because Goff just felt like he was cut off from that one person. Whereas in New England, they're trained to make like every single player a tool. And if Brady is feeling like every single player could possibly jeopardize the game, that's when he gets a little fussy. He lost last year like that. He lost last year because it seemed like only 3 people showed up to play on the Patriots side.
Yeah, and it also seems like, I like the way you said that. You know, I'm a big fan of tennis, and Roger Federer is just somebody who I feel like is not a tennis player. He's an artist, and I think Brady, I wouldn't call Brady a football player. I'd call him an artist. The way he, you know, the same way Montana, you know, watching these unbelievable players, Emmitt Smith and, you know, Walter Payton, you know, I'm kind of old too, so I say two, not that Chris is old, because Chris is young at heart.
I'm old.
But, you know, I have no problem saying that. You know, it's okay. It's fine. I didn't think you did either. What I think that, and I think this is a cool way to maybe wrap this up, Chris. I really appreciate your time. You know, what you said was so poignant, and something, you know, being a LinkedIn consultant, I help my clients with their LinkedIn profile and their branding on LinkedIn. And they want to put so much. They want to put so much. They want to put everything they did from, you know, they were a paper boy in 1945. Nobody cares. Brevity, consumable, concise, succinct. And it seems to me, if I'm understanding you correctly, Chris, it really parallels content creation. It really parallels what you do online. It parallels how you sell products, how you market products. I mean, copywriting is something that's almost like a lost art form, not to people who are practitioners, but people who are trying to become, quote unquote, I know it's probably the most overabused word in the last 3 years, but an entrepreneur or a whatever. You know, I think that is the huge takeaway here. Consumable content, consumable, entertaining. Think of the consumer. The title of this video, the title of this broadcast, Chris, was how to give your customer that experience, right? How to really customer experience strategies, and what are the best ways to give them the ultimate experience when they give you the greatest gift, which is their attention and time. And I think that just really, really covers it. A lot of writers, you know, I'm an author, and by the way, Chris is a 9-time author, and we're going to give him a chance to talk about his latest book, because it's going to be awesome. You know, we are married to our words. Most writers hate, I mean, I always say there's no such thing as a good writer, Chris, but a good rewriter. I think it's all in the editing. You know, I know Stephen King lives in your neck of the woods, and I loved his book, you know, which was basically about writing after his...
On writing, yep.
Yeah, after his unfortunate accident. And when he talked about, like, you've got to cut all that bleep out, I loved when he said that, because Hemingway, who's somebody I admire, kind of wrote that sort of, it's almost like this very athletic prose. It's very just straight to the point, direct. And boy, doesn't that translate to online communications and branding and copywriting and getting your message out there. I love the way you said that. So guys, I want to just say thank you so much. I really just want to say again, too, I want to say thank you to our guest, Chris Brogan, who just was fantastic giving us his time and who made it this time. He was not stuck in the frozen tundra, thank God, this time. By the way, how's the weather out there right now, Chris?
Sunny, but only 29 degrees. And there's a wee bit of snow laying around, but there's another storm warning. Like we seem to be trading with Chicago back and forth. Like if it's good over there, it's bad here.
Yeah.
So I don't really know how that works, but I can tell you that that vortex seems to be circling my house and I don't know, whoever lives in Chicago's house, Kanye West's house.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's interesting too because like we're in California and we're getting really, really cold. I'm originally an East Coast boy. I was pretty much raised in Reston, Virginia.
Sure.
And most of my family is still back there. But, you know, I've been in California for 30 years, and so the weather gets in your bones. So it's like 57 or like 62, and everybody in California looks like they're going to the mountains. It's like ski jackets. It's like you look like, what's going on here? This isn't, you know, we're not experiencing a vortex here. But at least you're not facing, that was a pretty harsh storm, I know, that came in. Chris, tell us a little bit about your new book and what you're doing and where people can find you.
Sure. I mean, let's start in the easy order. Finding me is easy, chrisbrogan.com, or if you can't spell my name, just owner.media. Or don't find me and find other people because there's some great people out there worth reading. Yeah. The book is titled Be Where They Are, Go Where They're Going. And I have started and stopped writing this book in some form more than anything I've ever done. Not because it's like such a great book, and it's not because it'll be such a great book, but because I keep getting about 130 pages into some book idea and going, I don't even want to read this. And so it's my 10th one, and I've covered a lot of things that I wanted to cover in life, but this I feel like, so when we wrote the book, Julian Smith and I wrote the book Trust Agents. It was the one where I won New York Times bestseller, Amazon, Wall Street Journal, Inc. magazine, something of the year. I don't remember. Big awards. So we write Trust Agents and we say, look, there's this whole new digital thing going on that's really accessible and anybody can like jump right in and start their own method and it's going to be great. And we were saying, you just go out there and make your own game. It'll be great. And then, I wrote another book just for fun, and then the next time Julian and I wrote together, we basically said, all right, look, you didn't exactly do it the way we were thinking you were going to do it. Like we thought you got it, but you didn't. And now everyone's doing what we said to do, and now it's so loud that you got to break through all that noise. So here's an equation that will help you get impact, and that's how we wrote that book. I then wrote a couple other books. And then I wrote a book for entrepreneurial types, kind of starters and, you know, standalone people called The Freaks Shall Inherit the Earth, which also could have been titled, Please Don't Ever Hire Chris Brogan for a Speech Again. And, you know, please, big companies don't hire him because he's clearly talking to individual people now. And so that was my last professional business book. And I'm like, oh, I have done such wrong. So this book is like, who do I got to make out with around here to get a speech for me? And then the other side of it is that, so first I said you should get online. There's this cool stuff to do online. Second, I said, well, you blew that. So here's how you make some sound and get some attention. This third one is maybe it's okay if it's all noisy, because if we all just kind of sneak over to this corner, this is what we're going to talk about, and how to use all of these fleeting distraction tools to earn that person who really is looking for you. Because it's not anymore about how can I get as many people. It's how to get the people I know I can serve, and that when they connect, they're going to go, oh, this is where I'm supposed to be. And that's who I'm helping people go after. So I guess it's like I gave you a machine gun, a sniper rifle, and now I'm giving you, I don't even know. So with my weapons. Yeah. My weapons analogy now has to go to, like, you know, Band-Aids and a fort, right? Because now we're into the healing and we're all going to love each other.
Yes. Throw in a grenade too, you know, while you're at it.
Yeah, you know, who doesn't need one of those?
Well, I also would like to add, if I may, Chris, I think you've got a pretty kick-ass podcast. And the name of that podcast, remind me again, Chris.
It's on my Making iTunes. The Brand, Customer Experience with Chris Brogan. And it is a sort of catch-all in some ways, because sometimes I'll interview somebody about like the future of Internet of Things devices. And then lately I have this little mini series going called Catch Up, where I just call friends.
I love that.
And say, hey, want to catch up?
And they're like, really fast. Yeah, I love the speaking of brevity, I like those short, quick, like, hey man, what's up? And then, you know, tell us a little bit and then see you later. I think that's really, really cool. And by the way, really big news. I don't know if you heard this, Chris. Speaking of podcasts, but Spotify has just purchased Anchor and Gimlet Media. Did you hear about that?
I saw the the negotiation on Gimlet. I did not know about Anchor, but I'm not surprised. They are most definitely pushing hard to say we want to be the place to go for podcast material.
Yeah, I mean, a big kind of nudge to iTunes, I think, and Apple. Spotify, I do know this, that Spotify, I think over 20% of their listeners listen to podcasting, and 70% of those listeners stick around and listen to music. So really, really interesting stuff, guys. And I think Chris would agree with me that voice and podcasting and your ability to communicate, again, it's not a popularity contest, guys. It's not about being, probably my most hated word, an influencer. It's just about getting your message out there. Who in the world are you? Why should I pay attention to you? What warrants my attention? And like, are you talking to the right people? Am I the right person for you? Yes, you can make money. Yes, you can impress an employer. Yes, you can build a community. But I think what's really cool about being a human being and why we're social species is because we like to share our story. We like to share. We're a sharing, species. That's what we are. And I think that's really powerful. And I think, Chris, I just want to say really, really a big heartfelt thank you to you. Keep doing what you're doing. Obviously, hopefully you will continue to keep doing what you're doing. I love what you're doing on YouTube. Keep that up. I think that's really cool. More importantly, I like the simplicity. And right now he's blushing like, why is this guy complimenting me to death? But I really do mean this. If you watch my other programs, I don't do this with all guests. And I really appreciate it. I thank you. And I'm going to leave in the show notes. By the way, I'm going to leave Nez Nation in the show notes, all the places where you can reach and find Chris, which really, he said it quite, aptly, chrisbrogan.com. I mean, that's the best place to reach him, I think. Am I wrong, Chris?
No, I make it super easy. My email is chris@chrisbrogan.com. Anyone's very welcome to draw me a line. Some reason people think that, I would have some staff who would look at my inbox, but that would be so depressing for that human being. I always say I'm just like everybody else.
You don't have a big team or entourage, Chris?
Yeah, no. I'm just like everyone else. I pay someone to put my pants on one leg at a time, just like you.
Mm-hmm. I actually hop into my pants. I'm sort of like an Olympian pant puller honor. That's what I do. So I sort of do a vault, and then I enter my pants at the same time. No, I'm totally kidding. What an idiot.
I have a random thing, like an OCD thing, I guess. I put my pants on left leg first every single time. It's always good that you know what person's leg is the first one. But I tap my foot and then pick my leg up off the ground. I go tap and then put my leg off. And I don't know why, except almost like the way a horse says, I'm getting ready to jump now.
Yeah. I think that's a sign that you're going to be going mentally insane soon.
Oh,
I read that.
Nez Nation, I'm there already.
I think I read that in a journal somewhere. No, I'm kidding. Well, Chris, you have absolutely rocked it. I want to say thank you really quickly to Midnight Madness, to Beth, to Neil, Cricket. How are you? Sethi, who's an unbelievable educator. We don't just have, it's unbelievable, Chris. We don't just have, this isn't your average audience. These are podcasters, live streamers, educators, coaches, consultants, business owners. We've got a great crew here. I really do apologize again for the quality of the stream. I've done everything in my power to make these as good as possible, which is just a sign, I think, that I need to keep learning. Which is just a sign, I think, that I need to keep getting better. And I promise you, I will do everything I can to keep that momentum going and to get better and bring these quality videos and streams and interviews to you guys. And I thank you so much. Don't forget, if you're interested in learning more about what I do or Chris does, you can always find all the links in the description below. This is Professor Nez signing off, saying thank you so much. Personal Branding 101 podcast. We're everywhere. We're over on iTunes, Spotify, which it sounds like Spotify is really starting to make some waves. We're everywhere you can find your podcast listening. Anchor, Stitcher, all the places, Google Podcasts. Go check it out. This will be on the podcast very, very soon. I want to thank again Chris Brogan. I hope you guys have a wonderful week, and we'll catch you guys next time. Thank you so much. See you guys.